Welcome to Fundraising Stories with Female Founders. I'm Julia Elliott-Brown, the founder and CEO of Enter the Arena. I'm a serial entrepreneur and an expert in raising investment and business growth. Our mission at Enter the Arena is to empower female founders to fly through pre-raise and investment and onto the exponential growth of their business with investment expertise and business coaching. Here we share the stories of inspirational female founders who've raised investment to inspire you to do the same. You'll hear their honest accounts of what it was really like to secure funding, the highs, the lows, and the challenges they experienced on the journey. And along the way, we'll discuss top tips for how you can be successful too. But today I'm speaking to an incredible female founder who, in her own words, likes to blow shit up. And we're going to be talking about sex. Cindy Gallop is the founder and CEO of MakeLoveNotPorn, the world's first user-generated, human-curated social sex video sharing platform. This is sex education through real-world demonstration. Cindy's mission is to socialize, normalize, and destigmatize sex to make it easier for everyone to talk about, to promote consent, communication, good sexual values, and good sexual behavior. Cindy launched Make Love Not Porn in 2013 to change the way the world has sex for the better and make a huge amount of money doing it. And 10 years on, over 1 million people have signed up all over the world from over 200 countries. And she's generating around 60K in revenue per month, despite many business growth challenges involved in marketing a sex tech business like this. To date, the business has had just one private investor who's put in $3 million so far to help her build the business. And Cindy has had quite a journey in that last 10 years, as fundraising in this sector is far from easy. So welcome to the show, Cindy.
Thanks, Julia. Thrilled to be here.
And it's wonderful to see you. For those people listening and not looking at the video, Cindy is sitting here with a fabulous T-shirt on with a heart on the front that says "Make Love Not Porn" from her apartment in Manhattan. You're certainly living and breathing the brand, Cindy. Great to see you.
Thank you.
So let's, tell us a bit more about Make Love Not Porn. What's it all about? Give us the lowdown.
Sure. So, Make Love Not Porn, Julia, quite frankly, is an accident because I didn't consciously and intentionally set out to do anything I very bizarrely find myself doing now. We are literally the startup the world asked for. And what I mean by that is Make Love Not Porn came out of my own personal experience dating younger men. The men I date tend to be in their 20s. And realizing through dating younger men, and this was 15, 16 years ago, that when we don't talk openly and honestly about sex, porn becomes sex education by default in not a good way. And by the way, obviously today everyone's much more aware of that, but 15, 16 years ago, nobody was talking about this. No one was writing about it. This was me in isolation, having these experiences in bed, going, wow, if I'm experiencing this, other people must be as well. And being a naturally action-oriented person going, I'm going to do something about this. So 14 years ago, purely as a little side venture, I put up on no money a tiny clunky website at MakeLoveNotPorn.com that in its original iteration was just words. It was kind of a public service announcement. Porn world versus real world. Here's what happens in the porn world. Here's what really happens in the real world. I launched Make Love Not Porn at TED in 2009. I became the only TED speaker to say the words "come on my face" on the TED stage 6 times in succession. The talk went viral as a result, and it drove this extraordinary global response to my tiny website that I had never anticipated. Thousands of people wrote to me from every single country in the world, young and old, male and female, straight and gay, pouring their hearts out, telling me things about their sex lives and their porn watching habits they'd never told anyone before, and I realized I'd uncovered a huge global social issue. And so I went, oh my God, I now have a personal responsibility. I have to take Make Love Not Porn forwards in a way that will make it much more far-reaching, helpful, and effective. And so I turned it into a business designed to do good and make money simultaneously, which is what I believe the future of all business should be. And so today, We are, as you said, the world's first and only user-generated, very importantly, 100% human-curated, safest place on the internet, social sex video sharing platform. So we're kind of what Facebook would be if it allowed you to socially, sexually self-express, which it clearly doesn't. The way to think about us is, if porn is the Hollywood blockbuster movie, Make Love Not Porn is the badly needed documentary. We are a unique window onto the funny, messy, loving, wonderful, comical, awkward sex we all have in the real world, which is why our tagline is, at Make Love Not Porn, we are pro-sex, pro-porn, pro-knowing the difference. And as a unique business, we have a unique capability. We have 10 years of proof of concept that we have the power to change people's sexual attitudes and behavior for the better in a way that nothing else can. Ultimately, our mission is to end rape culture. And we end rape culture by doing something incredibly simple that nevertheless nobody else is doing, which is we end rape culture by showing you how wonderful, great consensual communicative sex is in the real world. Our social sex videos role model good sexual values and good sexual behavior. And here's the important part. We make all of that aspirational versus what you see in porn and popular culture. And I foresaw the creator economy 14 years ago when I designed Make Love Not Porn around a revenue sharing business model. Our members pay to subscribe, rent and stream social sex videos. Half the income goes to our contributors, who we call our Make Love Not Porn stars. And so we're pioneering what we call the social sex revolution. The revolutionary part is not the sex. It's the fact we're finally making it social.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, talk about spotting a gap in the market and also, proving that there was a demand for what you were doing before you even had to get it off the ground. I mean, it sounds like it was irrefutable and a really interesting commercial model behind the scenes. So, obviously, 1 million users, that's amazing. What's the profile? What's the demographic of your audience? I'm really intrigued to know.
Sure. So, one of the very frustrating things, Julian, and this is why I'm raising funding at the moment, is that, we've never been able to build out Make Love Not Porn to be the tech and data platform that I've always planned it to be. Because I designed Make Love Not Porn to be the Kinsey of today. Real world, real time, real life human sexual behavior, captured and aggregated in a way that nobody else is doing, in an area that is notoriously research and data free. Because for all the reasons I battle on a daily basis, nobody's funding the ComScore of sex either. And also in the area of, where there is some research and data, the area where there's the widest possible gap between what people say and what people actually do. And we are all about what people do. At the moment, we have, a ton of data buried in our code that I have no way of getting to because I've not been able to afford my own CTO in-house tech team. But, I can tell you that, broadly speaking, we are 50-50, male, female. Actually, one thing I will just highlight is, I designed Make Love Not Porn to be fully gender equal, diverse and inclusive, and we are. Our members now, Make Love Not Porn stars, are male, female, trans, non-binary, straight, LGBTQ, But we've observed in the 10 years we've been operating that Make Love Not Porn is especially a revelation to men. More men send us appreciative emails, leave grateful comments than anybody else, because we are something unique that men will find nowhere else on the internet, which is a safe space where men can be and watch other men being open, emotional, and vulnerable around sex. You wouldn't believe the number of men who write to us and say, I just watched my first video, Make Love Not Porn, and afterwards I cried.
Wow.
I've been saying for years, I wish society understood the opposite of what it thinks is true. Women enjoy sex just as much as men, and men are just as romantic as women. Yet neither gender is allowed to openly celebrate either fact. We'd all be a lot better off if they were. I picked up a wonderful Twitter exchange between two men last year. The first man had tweeted, this is obviously a joke, he tweeted, hey guys, got this really weird fetish. I've got this kink Well, I want to watch porn where people are honest, loving, loyal, decent, and really like each other. Hit me up with your hottest links, please. And another man replied to him and he said, there's this website called MakeLoveNotPorn where you can see real couples making love. He said, I watched a video where the woman said to her man, I love you, while they were making love. He said, sincerely, I cried when I heard that. We are part of the solution to toxic masculinity.
Oh, it's such an incredible concept, Cindy. And the world needs this. But finding the funding to take this, vision into a reality, I know has been very challenging for you. And I have no doubt that things have really shifted over the last 10 years. But let's go back to kind of when you were first raising funding and finding your incredible angel investor who has supported you. Can you tell us a bit more about how you found that investor and what the climate was like back then?
Sure. So basically, Julia, 14 years ago, I mean, nobody wanted to touch with a barge pole, quite frankly. In the conventional funding world, that stems from the dynamic I call fear of what other people will think. Because, what I found was, it was absolutely not about what the person I was talking to thought. It was their fear of what everybody else around them would think. And that is why very early on, I ruled out VC as a funding route, because there are too many stakeholders, too many GPs, too many LPs, too much fear of what other people think. I remember speaking years ago to a friend of mine who is a very prominent female VC at a very prominent venture fund, who said to me, listen, I think this could be really big, but if I took it to my partners, they go, what are you on? So that operated a lot. And how I found my angel investor was absolutely emblematic of what I've realized over the years and what drives what is a very different kind of investor funding strategy to anybody else's. Because I know, and I've always known, that my investors are out there, and there are a ton of them. And by the way, there are a ton of them in every single country in the world. They are impossible to find by the usual means because they all have one thing in common. Your willingness to fund Make Love Not Porn is entirely a function of your personal sexual journey. It is a function of your personal lens on sex and sexuality that's been shaped by your own experience, and I have no way to research and target for that. Especially because sex is the one area where you cannot tell from the outside what anybody thinks on the inside. The people who look like they would totally get it don't. The people who look like complete prudes do. And so my strategy has been, over the years, I deliberately put what I'm doing out there all the time. I promote Make Love and Porn across all my social channels. I talk about it to everybody. I do every media interview I'm asked to. I go on every single podcast, because I have to make synaptic connections happen that will attract those investors to me. Now, theoretically, this is a long, slow, painful, and highly inefficient process. In practice, it works. So, 12 years ago, this was exactly how it worked with my original angel investor, because this was somebody I'd known for a long time. He was in town he lives elsewhere. And I wasn't pitching him because I actually thought he was a bit of a prude on this front, And so we were having dinner and I told him what I was planning to build. And he got dollar signs in his eyes and said, I want to fund that. And honestly, I was gobsmacked because, as I say, I had not considered that this would speak to him in a business context at all. And that, as I say, is really emblematic of, my experience over the years. Because quite frankly, I've been a tech entrepreneur for a long time, and I know a lot of people in Silicon Valley. I know a lot of people in the VC world. And there are, I'm going to say this very straightforwardly, there are a ton of people going to sex parties, having orgies at Burning Man, who refuse to fund SexTech, which is ridiculous.
And by the way, it's the fear of being seen to be associated with something like that.
And in fact, many years ago, loved the guys at Product Hunt because they became champions of Make Love Not Porn very early on. We were on Product Hunt very early on, and so they invited me, Ryan and Eric, that they invited me onto the Product Hunt stage at a tech conference in San Francisco again many years ago, and interviewed me. And I said, because I really wanted the audience to hear this, I said, all those big VCs and angel investors in Silicon Valley who claim to not give a fuck about anything, you'd be amazed quite how many fucks are given when it comes to sex tech. And so sex more than any other area proves the truth that saying we do not see things as they are, we see things as we are. Because here's the deal, Julia, which makes this so ridiculous. And again, this is what I've been saying to investors, for all these years. Oh my God, the money there is to be made. But the money there is to be made in two areas, the second one of which nobody even thinks about because nobody even thinks it's possible. So the first area is, oh my God, the money to be made out of sex. We all have it, we all enjoy it, and especially right now, in the current economic downturn, we are recession-proof and the market never ever goes away. But the second area is, oh my God, the money to be made out of socially acceptable sex. Because when you do what we are doing at Make Love Not Porn, and again, we have 10 years of proof of concept of this, because I've taken Make Love Not Porn to an unprecedented level of business and social acceptance. When you socialize and normalize all of this, you then normalize people feeling really happy about publicly buying your goods and services, publicly then doing what they do with everything else, publicly recommending, sharing, advocating, reviewing, and publicly badging themselves as brand ambassadors. That's the $1 trillion financial future that I'm going after. And at Make Love Not Porn, we are proving that that is eminently possible. And in that context also, Julia, I and Make Love Not Porn represent what should be the investment holy grail. We represent the opportunity to monetize sex safely. And no one else has ever done that.
Yeah, I mean, wow, how incredible. Hello, it's Julia here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast episode. I just want to take a really short break in this interview to tell you about my best-selling book, which I know you're going to find super helpful as you think about and prepare for your own fundraising journey. It's called Raise, the Female Founder's Guide to Securing Investment, and it's available in paperback, hardback, on your Kindle, and now also as an audiobook. In this book, you're going to discover the answers to all the questions you might have around raising investment, and specifically how to overcome the challenges you might face as a female founder. The guide follows the 5-step process that I've been using with all my amazing clients that entered the arena since 2015, who've raised over £20 million in funding. And you'll find over 35 inspirational case studies of female founders who've successfully raised investment in the book. And you'll also get to hear my own story of raising over £2 million of investment for my last business, which wasn't without its challenges. So you can get the book on Amazon, on your Kindle, or on Audible. Just type in Raise, the Female Founder's Guide to Securing Investment, and you'll find it. And I mean, and have you seen those attitudes change then? I mean, you were such a pioneer of you invented the sex tech sector. And have you seen those attitudes shift? So now the conversations you're having with investors, what are they like?
Sure. And so I want to just preface my response to that, Julia, by, again, because I think it's going to be helpful to our audience. There are two fundamental principles of how I've been going about finding investors that actually, will work for everybody else if they think about these as they apply to them. The first, as I've said, is when you put what you're doing out there all the time, you attract your tribe to you. I've said for years to entrepreneurs, never waste your time banging your head against closed doors. Instead, engineer yourself into a position where doors open automatically as you approach. And when you put what you're doing out there, you will absolutely attract your investors to you. And by the way, I cannot recommend too highly doing this on LinkedIn. If you had told me 10 years ago that one day I would say I'm all about LinkedIn, I would have laughed in your face. Today, I am LinkedIn's biggest fan because, especially because the LinkedIn algorithm works better and more effectively than any other social channel. Post something on LinkedIn, your whole network sees it. Somebody else likes it, their whole network sees it. Somebody else comments that, et cetera, et cetera. And so my posts on LinkedIn get way more reach, views, and impressions and engagement than anywhere else. And I am gobsmacked at how effective LinkedIn is at bringing me incoming investor interest. So, whoever you are founder-wise, whatever sector you operate in, operate the same principle. The second principle is when you have a truly world-changing startup, you have to change the world to fit it, not the other way around. And I like to say that, 9 years ago, that is what got me into the Steve Jobs business of reality distortion. Because if reality tells me that I cannot grow and make love not porn into the unicorn I intend it to be, I'm going to change reality. And what I mean by that is, 9 years ago, I deliberately set out to define, pioneer and champion my own category, SexTech. So I literally wrote the definition of SexTech. If you Google SexTech, I'm result 1 on page 1. But by the way, forgive the sirens in the background. This is a New York occupational hazard. I hope you don't mind. And by the way, the definition of SexTech is any form of technology or tech venture designed to innovate, disrupt, and enhance in any area of human sexuality, human sexual behavior. I coined the hashtag SexTech. I didn't invent the term, by the way, but I'm directly responsible for basically spreading the hashtag as widely as it's used today. And I began speaking at tech conferences all around the world on why the next big thing in tech is sex tech. Because I thought at base level, if I just say this loudly enough, often enough, in enough places, people will start to believe it. And I did all of that purely to create a climate of receptivity for Make Love Not Porn, to give Make Love Not Porn a sector to sit in that would make investors more inclined to consider it when I legitimized where it sat within the tech landscape. So, again, whoever you are as a founder, whatever sector you operate in, think about changing the world to fit you, not the other way around. Because today, sex tech is a thing. Yeah. Google sex tech today, there are tons of articles, and that has enormously helped ground my venture. And so, I am absolutely finding today that my investor dialogues are going very differently to the way they went 14 years ago. First of all, 14 years ago, I was the very first person to stand on a stage and say publicly that porn was now becoming sex education. Today, you can't turn around without falling over another media headline going, "Oh my God, kids and porn!" So everybody understands why I'm doing what I'm doing. And then here's another very interesting thing, and this is also worth other founders thinking about in the context of their sector, because every business obstacle I've encountered for the past 14 years is an enormous disruptive business opportunity in itself. And what I mean by that is, so just so our audience is aware, when I embarked on this venture, I had no idea that I and my tiny team would fight an enormous battle every day to build it, basically because every piece of business infrastructure any other tech startup takes for granted, we can't. The small print always says no adult content. And that is all pervasive. I couldn't get funded, I couldn't get banked, couldn't put payments in place. PayPal, Stripe won't work with adult content. Every tech service I want to use, the terms of service always say no adult content. Had to build our entire tech platform from scratch as proprietary technology. Existing streaming services won't stream adult content. Even email partners, MailChimp won't work with adult, Klaviyo won't. We've been through so many email providers to find SendGrid who will. And so 14 years ago, when I was discovering these barriers, especially in the financial area, somebody said to me, "Cindy, to do what you want to do, you're going to have to start your own bank." And I was so angry at what I was encountering, I went, "I'm going to start my own bank." And so I literally, 14 years ago, looked at starting my own bank, which is when I discovered it was possible. Regulation made it impossible. But what that means is that for 14 years, I've been monitoring fintech every day. I began talking to the Bitcoin crypto community 10 years ago. And by the way, that makes it really easy to answer the interview question I get asked every so often, which is, Cindy, what was your biggest business mistake? Not buying Bitcoin 10 years ago.
I was going to say, I mean, I wonder if we could just wind back a little bit.
Sorry, sure, yeah, sorry.
Point about creating a market.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one because there are many investors who are nervous about a business where they've got to create the market, because often it can take years and serious amounts of funding to create that market. And the danger is you do that, and then all the other buggers come in and build a business having not had to make that investment to create the market. Because and you've been in this game 10 years and, there's been a lot of challenges along the way. What are your thoughts on that?
Sure. So I have two responses to that, Julia. First of all, I guess you'd call this the one benefit of what I do. I operate in a very high barrier to entry sector. And to be perfectly frank, Julia, I would welcome, many more social sex platforms like MakeLoveNotPorn. Sadly, they're not coming along anytime soon because Jesus H. Christ, what you have to deal with, I have many fellow SexTech founders who've given up. And I don't blame them because my life is shitty on a daily basis because of what I do. So number one response, very high barrier to entry sector, especially because none of the giant tech platforms are doing this anytime soon. I will never, ever, ever be undercut by Facebook, Google, Snapchat, TikTok, nobody. By the way, I'd love them to. I would love not to need to exist, but nobody is going to embrace social sex as part of their gigantic platform and destroy my business in one fell swoop anytime soon. Okay. The second response is, I'm not creating a category. I am building a business in a category that the world is desperate to have exist. And here's why I say that. It's very frustrating to me and my team that right now, Google will not allow us to do paid search ads because right now, every day, people all around the world search for Make Love Not Porn without knowing that we exist. And what I mean by that is the top organic search terms that drive traffic to Make Love Not Porn are make love, not porn, real sex not porn, video sexo na porno, Make Love Not Porn, where they don't know there's a company called that. One young man told me that he found us when he Googled porn that is not porn. He was so fed up with everything out there, wanted something different, had no idea what to search for. When you search porn that is not porn, you find Make Love Not Porn. That is how much the world wants us and knows it needs us.
Yeah.
Another demonstration of the fact that our category exists is that every year, Pornhub, the most visited site on the internet, at the end of each year, they publish a year in review where they basically analyze the vast trove of data on their platform and analyze trends. And so their year in review 2022 identified that the number one trend across their gigantic platform is what they call reality. People are looking for real. And when that study came out, I shared the shit out of that all over social and said, what all those people are looking for, though they don't know it yet, is Make Love Not Porn.
Okay. So how do you overcome that kind of that challenge that there are restrictions that make it very challenging for you to grow the business? This view that the big players therefore aren't going to enter the sector anytime soon, yet you're going out there and selling the opportunity and the vision to investors that this is a business that has huge growth potential. It feels like there's two very contrasting points of view there.
Yep.
So does that present a challenge for you with investors now?
Yep. So again, as I said, Julia, I live my philosophy of you have to change the world to fit you, not the other way around. So I am all about building solutions to my own problems to prove concept. Okay. So I'm raising funding for a very specific product roadmap that is not just about scaling the core business, MakeLoveNotPorn.tv, but about building out a number of product expansions that both solve my own problems, but also solve many other people's simultaneously, and do it in a way that proves concept, that drives more social acceptance for openness around sex in the real world. And so, I'll give a couple of examples of what I mean. Because, by the way, I've been talking about these product expansions publicly for years because I'm trying to raise funding for them for years. It's only now that investors are finally getting it. So here's the first one. And this is not at all surprising because, parents and teachers began writing to me from day one of Make Love Not Porn 14 years ago. So I'm raising funding to build the 0 to 18 and beyond expansion of Make Love Not Porn, MakeLoveNotPorn.academy. I bought the URL many years ago. There's a very old holding page up there. This is what I characterize as the Khan Academy of Sex Education, because Khan Academy tutors on every other topic under the sun except this one. EdTech as a category is exploding, not in this area. So I want to build Make Love Porn Academy on the same principles as MakeLoveNotPorn.tv, user-generated, crowdsourced, curated revenue share. Because I'm not about reinventing the wheel. This is an aggregation play. I want to build the go-to global hub for the world's sex education content. So the way it works is, we build the Academy platform when we have the funding, very efficient build. We simply repurpose Make Love Not Porn's existing content publishing human curation infrastructure. And we then invite sex educators all around the world to share with us their own content. Coursework materials, videos, books, comic strips. And by the way, I use educators in the broadest possible sense. Sexual health and wellness experts, sex therapists, anybody educating and informing in all of these areas. We will curate. We only ever publish what is Make Love Not Porn endorsed. Human curation lies at the heart of everything we do. And we will then publish all this content segmented by age appropriateness. Because if you're a parent freaking out about, oh my God, my 6-year-old just asked about this, what do I say? Here's where you would find age-appropriate tools and content to be able to have that conversation with a 6-year-old. If you're a teacher with a class of 14-year-olds, here are age-appropriate teacher materials. Adult access all areas. Adults are desperate for information as well. The important thing is that the Academy will be where children and young people can access sex education without parental teacher gatekeeping. And that's important because I have a friend who's a mother. This happened a few years ago. Her son was 8 years old. She saw to her horror that on the family computer, he had Googled sex for children. So freaked out, but did the right thing. Stayed calm, sat him down. Darling, I see you've talked me through it. And this anecdote is adorable and horrifying in equal measure because her son wanted to learn about sex. He was a child. He knew as a child, he would learn about sex in a child-appropriate way. He sweetly, innocently Googled sex for children. You can imagine what came back, utterly traumatized. So the Academy will be when an 8-year-old boy can enter his age. We'll only serve him age-appropriate sex ed. Now, some of this will be free to access, per that example, but we'll also charge to download, subscribe, bulk buy if you're a school, and then split the revenue 50-50 with its creators, the educators. Because right now, no one goes into sex education to make money. I have friends who are sex educators all around the world. They have the same problems I do. Their content gets blocked on Facebook, Instagram. They can't advertise. They can't make a living doing this. I want to change that. But here's the reason also why I want to do this, Julia, because for years people have said to me, Cindy, you should go into schools. Make porn should be on the curriculum. There's such a desperate need for sex ed. I said, no, I shouldn't, because anyone trying to bring sex ed into schools comes up against the PTA, moral panic. But when I can show you in one place, because it doesn't exist currently, the best of the world's sex ed content, and you can see for yourself how informative, educational, healthy, and non-threatening it is, that is what then gets sex ed into schools. Mm-hmm. And as one investor said to me, Cindy, the moment you launch the Academy and 100 schools sign on, looking at a completely different value proposition. I'm out to prove concept. And so everything I do is geared at socializing all of this, so that those big, the exit strategy for Make Love Porn Academy are those giant edtech platforms, growing massively globally that don't offer sex education. When I show you how you can safely I mean, that's an exit opportunity for the Academy.
Yeah, the market is coming, isn't it? I mean, as a mother of two teenagers, I would absolutely love to see this in place. So how much are you raising at the moment, Cindy? How's the round going? And are you raising in the States, or are you raising any money elsewhere? Tell us about your strategy.
Sure. So I'm absolutely raising globally. I'm talking to investors from Europe, the Middle East, Asia, the US, all over. And my strategy is, as I said, to attract investors to me. They have been reaching out thick and fast on LinkedIn, especially in the past year. Literally in the past few weeks, investors have been reaching out. They come from a variety of areas. So I'm talking to, high net worth individuals, angel investors. I'm talking to impact investors who get that we are the ultimate form of social impact. I'm talking to family officers who are able to deploy their funds, in any way they choose. I'm talking to strategic investors, so large corporates with an interest in sexual health and wellness, from a product or pharmaceutical context, who've reached out, and rather bizarrely, I'm also talking to venture funds who, I have not been targeting them specifically, but I've had people reach out to me. So I only began, I've been building a list of interested investors for the past year. I've finalized my investor deck just at the start of this year. And so I've only been having much more tangible conversations in the past few months. And again, as I said, this is not a conventional fund round wake and go, I'm going to start here, I'm going to end here, because it simply doesn't work like that. But I am very encouraged by the fact that, I'm basically having a number of conversations that are, we absolutely want to be part of this round. I'm focused at the moment on finding the lead investor, and I have several candidates for that. And so I'm looking at how I can, button that down. But I'm very encouraged. And I will just say also that what is really wonderful as well is that for years, and again, this has been even more the case in the past year, I've had many people reaching out to me saying, do you take small investors? They reach out from within the Make Love Not Porn community, but also from outside. And so I'm also in the process of organizing, a vehicle with a partner I'm very excited about, to be able to sweep up all of those small investors as well.
So a private crowd fund.
Yeah. And I can't say anything more about that at the moment. Because
yeah, I mean, it's a great strategy. And I think that can be a very clever way of doing it if you don't want to go public, or if the public platforms perhaps think you're a no-no. I don't know what they think of you now. There are other sex tech businesses that have been successful at raising. But what I really love about what you've done, Cindy, is, absolutely exemplary example of a founder that shows total determination and resilience, never giving up. But this whole point about, you've got to put it out there. And if you put yourself out there with a really clear message about what you're building, with confidence, you will attract investors. I think, and I agree, LinkedIn is an incredible tool. In fact, we're going to be doing a LinkedIn live session coming up quite soon about how to use LinkedIn to build your profile, build your investment network. I'm always astounded by founders who kind of say, well, I don't want to put myself out there, or I don't want to talk about my business in case somebody copies the idea. And I just think, goodness me, you've got to put yourself out there.
No, exactly, Julia. But because, first of all, I'm a great believer in the more you share an idea, the better it gets. No one has to sign an NDA with Make Love Not Porn ever. I'm telling everybody transparently exactly what I'm doing, what I want to build. Again, in my case, I can do that because very high barrier to entry sector. But I honestly believe the more you share an idea, the better it gets. And secondly, Julia, for exactly the reason you and I are talking today, this is what female founders must do. Because as we all know, only 1.7% of all venture capital last year went to female founded ventures. Separate to my own challenges as a SexTech founder, female founders face massive sexism and misogyny when it comes to raising funding. And so I especially say to female founders, put what you're doing out there, and again, especially on LinkedIn, because you absolutely should adopt my strategy of attract the right investors to you. What I've realized in 14 years, Julia, is it is only ever about the people who get it. When you find them, the people who get how important what you're building is, they will champion you, they will support you, they will fund you, they will open doors for you. Find the people who get it. And you only do that by absolutely putting what you're doing out there and attracting them to you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Absolutely brilliant words of advice there, Cindy. And I wish you all the best on this round. I cannot wait to see how it goes. I cannot wait to see how much money you raise. This is a business that deserves to be much, much bigger on a global scale. It's a very, very important piece in the puzzle for sex education. So everybody go and check out MakeLoveNotPorn.com and watch this space. Thank you so much, Cindy, for sharing all your words of wisdom.
Thank you, Julia. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks for following Fundraising Stories with Female Founders. This content is all provided to you for free, so if you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe so you never miss another one. Enter the Arena has helped hundreds of female founders fly through pre-raise and investment and onto the exponential growth of their business. Our first-hand experience, expert guidance, and proven programs help female founders unleash the Wonder Woman inside. To see if we can help you do the same, head over to www.enterthearena.co.uk. I'm Julia Elliott Brown, and I look forward to talking with you soon.